Hey, what's up guys? It's Brandon here for RC Nightmare. In this video we're talking about 5T maintenance. This is from Losi. This is a fifth scale gas truck. A lot of this maintenance will apply to any fifth scale gas or any gas truck for that reason. Some of it will apply to your nitros too, but this is what we're focusing on today. In this video we're going to take a look at interval maintenance of every 6 tanks. So these are things I want you to check every 6 tanks or so. Again, take that with a dose of common sense. I mean, you want to check over everything before you run it, but these are things to keep in the back of your mind and check on every once in a while. So in a previous video I already did 1 to 2 tank interval maintenance. We're going to do 6 tank maintenance this time. Okay guys, first up on our 6 tank maintenance interval is going to be checking the 2 clutches on the motor. So we got a one-way clutch for the pull start that engages the crankshaft when we pull on it and releases it when the engine's running, and then we have a centrifugal clutch on the front that obviously engages the drive line. So these are the 2 things they want to check. They want us to check on these 6 tank interval maintenance, and so we're going to take a look at that now. First step is to drain the tank and remove the fuel line so we can get the engine out. Okay, I drained my tank. I got my fuel lines disconnected. Next step was to remove the 2 bolts that holds the gear cover on. I've removed those, popped this gear cover off. That gives us clearance to remove the motor. And we want to disconnect the throttle linkage. There's a bolt and nut here you want to remove. This linkage is now free. We're going to back it off just like so. Put those aside. Next step is going to be to unbolt the motor from the chassis. Okay, we want to unbolt the motor. There's 4 bolts that hold it on the bottom of the chassis here. These are slotted mounts, 4 of them here. You can see these inserts are marked with a 19. You may not be able to read that on the camera. The 19 represents the pinion we're running or the clutch bell. These little inserts set the mesh, so it's important that you note the direction they're in here so when you put them back in, the mesh is set right. So we can see the 19 is towards the driver's side of the truck. We want to make sure we put them back in that way. Remove these 4 and the engine will drop right out. Okay, I've removed the 4 bolts from the bottom of the motor. Before I lift it up, I want to make sure that I have the temperature sensor wire unplugged. If you reach underneath there's a temperature sensor plug. I have mine unplugged already. Make sure you don't rip that wire yanking out the motor. So unplug that first. Motor pulls right out. Okay, now I have the motor off the chassis, and we can focus on the pull start clutch. That's a one-way clutch, and the centrifugal clutch on front. I'm going to start on the centrifugal clutch here. There's 4 bolts we want to remove to access that. So pull these 4 off and we can check the internals. Okay, I have these 4 bolts loose now. We can pull this right off. You can see the clutch there, the pads. And here we have the clutch bell. And what we want to look at on this side of things are the 2 bearings that the clutch bell rides on in the gear. You want to feel this, just spin it by hand. It should be nice and smooth and tight, no play, no slop, no gritty feeling to it. If you have the bearings in question, you think they might feel a little gritty, they're loose, you want to remove this front bolt here. Very carefully vise up the gear. You want to use some wooden clamps so you don't damage it or mar it. Pull that bolt out of there and you'll be able to get the bearings out and replace them. Ours feel real good yet, so there's no need to replace it. It's nice and tight and smooth, no problems there. We just want to check in here for any foreign debris, anything that would ruin the clutch or the pads. Any glazing on the clutch bell, all looks good, nice and smooth. So we're good on that side of things. Now we want to look at the pads themselves. So you can see the shoe material here looks like a brake drum. We want to check the thickness of it in a cross section. So if we take a cross section of it like this, and this is shown in the manual as well, we want to make sure that there's at least 1 millimeter of pad material left. And I can see that I have 2.5 or so of pad material, so I'm real good there. No need to replace these. If you do pull these off and replace them, make sure that you put them in the right direction. There's small arrows here that show the rotation of the motor for the direction that the pad should be facing. Make sure you put those in the right way. Put them in the wrong way isn't necessarily going to ruin anything, but it will ruin the engagement of the clutch. It's going to change the RPMs. It might not be desirable for what you're doing. So again, make sure you double check that. If you pull it off, make sure you get it in the right way. When you're putting this back together, this bolt gets red Loctite. You want permanent Loctite on that guy. Sustains a lot of torque, so we don't want this gear coming loose. And these 4 bolts here are going to get a touch of blue Loctite before I put them back on. Okay, I got my clutch cover back on, Loctited down. Now we're going to focus on the pull start cover here. So there's 4 torque screws we're going to have to remove. The 2 they gave you with the kit is obviously the right size, so pull these out. Okay, I got these all loose. We can pull this cover off now. First thing we're going to want to do is clear this of debris. Obviously this is vented, so grass and dirt, rocks and all that can get in there. You want to inspect all these cooling fins on the flywheel. Make sure none are damaged or chipped. It's very important that they're all in good shape. I don't see any problems with ours. I'm just going to kind of shake out some of the debris. Same with this, get rid of the grass in there. And now we'll take a closer look at the parts on the clutch itself. Start with removing this. Again, this is another torque bit right here. Okay, I have this screw backed out almost all the way. Before we want to take it all the way out, you want to be extremely careful that you do not pull out the the pull start assembly here. There's a wound up spring in there, a coil spring. If you pull that out and release the spring, you're going to have a real bad day trying to wind that up and stick it in there. So make sure this white plastic piece stays in the housing. We just want to remove the screw and pull out the parts inside here. Got a washer, this plate, and there's a spring here, and then the engagement ring right there. Again, be very careful that this does not come out. We're going to set this aside, make sure we don't disturb that. So what we're looking for here is any damage to any of these parts. Make sure the spring's in good shape, it's not worn down, it's not ground down on. This washer here is fine. This plate here, just check for any grooves, dings, dents. There's two little, I guess you call them dimples here on the side that you want to take a look at. Make sure those aren't damaged. This is the most important piece. This is what actually engages the flywheel. So bring the motor in here. You can see these teeth here sticking out. This is what grabs those, and then when the engine's spinning, it releases. So you want to make sure that these are nice and sharp and not damaged, not rounded off real bad. If your pull start starts skipping or jumping, these are things you want to look at to replace. Ours are in good shape, so there's no need to replace any of these parts. Got good inspection. We're going to put it back together now. Bring it in here, set this piece down in there until it falls in place. Spring goes in, just like so. Let's set this plate on. If you're worried about orientation, it's not crucial, but you can see what side the washer was grinding on and what side the assembly was. So it's going to go like this, face down, like so. Washer's going to go in there, and it's got a square center, so we want to make sure that lines up with the square in the assembly. That might be kind of fun to do as everything's floating around on you. Once you get in there, hold it down and line it up, like so. Stick our screw in there. We'll just bolt this down like so and get it nice and tight. Alright, I got my screw tightened down. All the pieces are in place. We want to check for smooth operation. Just pulling the cord, make sure it's nice and smooth. We want to make sure that these two teeth, this whole starting paw here, comes up like that as you're pulling it and retracts back down. That's what grabs the flywheel, and when the motor is moving and you let go, it lets go. So we got nice smooth operation. You can see how that works there. Pull start is good to go. I didn't need to replace any parts. Make sure you do replace them if anything's broken. Don't try to fix them. It's much easier just to get brand new pieces. So now we're going to take back our motor, bolt this right back on, and we'll be good to go. Okay, I got these 4 bolts tightened down. We just want to make sure that the starter does engage the crankshaft and that it releases, and it does. So starter's all set. That really concludes the maintenance for the 6-tank interval. In the next video, we're going to take a look at what you want to do for every 12 tanks or 12 hours of runtime. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We'll see you soon.